There's Christian too.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the 27th annual virtual San Diego Latino Film Festival. Today has been amazing. Incredible amount of Q&As, people from Spain, Mexico participating. We have currently 3 live streams going on at once right now. It feels like our normal festival when we have 4 or 5 different auditoriums taking place, multiple screenings, multiple Q&As happening, everyone running around. In this case, though, it's in a virtual lobby. So we want to thank you all for watching Sanadoras. We want to thank you all for supporting the San Diego Latino Film Festival. And then we want to welcome all these wonderful people here on the screen right now. We have Luis Martinez, who's going to facilitate the discussion. And then we have Christian, who's going to help with some tech support and be there. And then also we have the one and only Rodrigo, the director of Sanadoras. So big round of applause, virtual round of applause.
Thank you.
Rodrigo. And this is an opportunity for you listening. Please ask questions about the filmmaking process, about the wonderful film. And then, of course, tag us, share your photos with us. Make sure you tell us what you've been watching during the film festival. And then make sure you go to SDLatinofilm.com, SDLatinofilm.com to see all the wonderful films playing this week. So I'll say goodbye to you. Enjoy the movies. And Luis will take it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Ethan, and thank you, as always, for everything that you do for the film industry in San Diego and the Latin film industry in general. And I want to welcome everybody to this my first Q&A for the San Diego Latino Film Festival with a movie that I watched recently. Director Rodrigo Occelli is here to talk with us today. The movie is called LAS SANADORAS. And I want to start off right away asking about, just the process for you of making the film and how long it took in terms of actual shooting that.
Well, the first time I finished my first documentary film a few years ago, and I was looking for a new story to tell. And actually, in documentary, I think the stories kind of find you. I mean, you open your radar and you are open to find a new story. And I think the stories actually come to you. And it was the case with us. I was having coffee with a friend from Guadalajara, and he was going into the medicinal cannabis industry, and we were just catching up about life and everything. And he mentioned this group of moms of women that were cultivating cannabis, and that really it got really my attention. I started asking him questions about who they were and how they operate and everything. And after a 4-hour coffee, I told him, well, can you put me in contact with Cecilia? Cecilia is the founder of Mama Cultiva. That is organization in Mexico that produces medicinal cannabis. And 3 weeks later, I got in touch with Cecilia, and we met here in Mexico City on this group of women. They give a small workshops on how to make oil from cannabis, how to cultivate the cannabis. So without even knowing her, she invited me to one of these secret workshops, and I went really parts out of the city. We met her, and I just stood up in a lonely house, and I knocked at the door. And when I got in, there were 25 women there with 6 children, of course. I was really impressed to see, the necessity of these women and how desperate they were. So after I saw the workshop that it lasted like 2 hours, I took, we went to grab a cup of coffee, and we talked like was one of the longest coffees of my life. We were like 7 hours in the cafeteria. We had a meal, and then we had dinner in there also. And we talk and we talk and we talk, and we make we bond in an instant. She understood what I wanted to do, and she knows about the necessity. So she was like, okay, everything looks fine, but let me think about it, and I'll get back to you like in, I don't know, like 2-3 weeks. This was around March of 2018. Let's say that like middle April, I finally talked to her, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna open up my world to you, and let's do this. So the first challenge, actually, after she said that we can do the documentary with her, it was the funding. Because at the beginning I thought it was going to be really easy, because you have, in one hand you have cannabis, in the other hand is a theme that is really hot here in Mexico, because we are facing the regulation that started in the year 2017, and we still do not have a regulation. So it's a hot subject. So I thought it was going to be easy, and it was the opposite. It was really, really hard to come up with the funding. So we had to change the strategy like 4 times to raise the money to make the documentary. And finally, we met with a lab that operates in Colombia, that is called Farmacielo. And I met these guys, and they loved the project. And thanks to them, they found a big part of the project. And once we have, like the money, the rest came from private investors and donations, almost. So the shooting actually was 28 days. The documentary was shot in Santiago de Chile and many parts of Mexico. And we made a whole bunch of interviews. We went to these secret workshops. I mean, it's just amazing. I always say, like, imagine Breaking Bad but with your granny. Like it could be your aunt and grannies, and like cooking the weed and everything. It's really impressive. So that was the shooting was around October or November 2018. And on January, we started the editing process that it took us around almost 4 months. So around, let's say, April of 2019, the film was ready. And we started signing it up in film festivals. Our first stop was DocsMX in Mexico. That was the documentary premiere. Then we got into the Florence Film Awards. Then we got into Impact Doc Awards. Then we step in NAFIC, that is another film festival in Mexico. Then we won in San Diego in this festival, the Impact Doc Awards. We won, and then we got the great news that we were official selection in the San Diego Latino. And after San Diego Latino, we are in the Seattle Latino Film Festival. So wow. It's been quite a ride, really exciting, and it's been a really great experience, because the documentary actually has helped all the organization of Mama Cultura.
So Mama Cultura is dedicated. It's a group of women that started off basically, risking their freedom and risking their children, because they felt that the government has this stance of marijuana and cannabis being illegal for all purposes, and the research tells us obviously that it has healing properties, that that our culture has been using for a long time. And you made the decision to sort of focus on that. Now, being Latino, I mean, yo soy colombiano también, y la cultura, the culture is one where you can have somebody that is un borracho, that drinks, that does drugs, that drives around crazy, shooting guns and stuff, and they will dismiss that as being part of the culture. But if you see somebody, treating their kid with medicine or smoking some weed in a park somewhere, all of a sudden they sort of have this feeling that they're like un gamín, somebody that's a menace to society, right? So un vago, no? So it's not just that there's laws on the books that said this is legal. This is a fight against a long-term sort of cultural thought process against cannabis, right?
Yeah, in Mexico, for example, you face a really harsh, like, double morality. Mexicans are like this. We brag that we are very open-minded, but when it comes to these sort of things, you find that a big percentage of the population is against consuming cannabis in any way, medicinal, personal. It doesn't matter. For the society, you are like a drug addict. So imagine when it comes up, when it appears in the news that these women, they are giving their children cannabis. People don't even listen to the word medicinal. They only hear cannabis, and the people are like, "Oh my God, you're drugging your kid," and it makes like a big fuss. And above that, even though the regulation here in Mexico is taking baby steps, if you go to the law, it's illegal. In Mexico, the maximum amount is 5 grams, not even 28. That is the international standard. So in Mexico, if they want to get you, they will, and they have. So it was a risk. Even in the documentary, we interview a really successful and involved lawyer in the cannabis movement, and she brought to our attention that even the documentary is a crime, because in the documentary we show how people consume, we show the weed, and we show people how to prepare it. So essentially, the documentary is in itself, it's an illegal piece of cinema. So we face that when we want to put it in theaters in Mexico, that we are hoping to do so. But imagine that our documentary is illegal under the eyes of the law in Mexico. This is an illegal piece of cinema.
One of the things that's the most ironic or kind of the juxtaposition is that you have these women that are, growing themselves a plant, that in California, Nevada, Pennsylvania, like I think 17 different states, Washington, Oregon, and the United States, it's legal for medicinal use. It's legal in some states for recreational use. You can go down the store and buy, a bottle of CBD, and they found themselves in a position where they were, in order to treat their children, smuggling.
Yeah,
they were taking legal drugs and turning them into illegal drugs by crossing an imaginary line with a plant, right?
Completely absurd. Most they passed a law in 2017 that our current president erased from the books in March of 2019. But for a brief moment, it was legal to bring any CBD component, products through the border. But before that, like you're saying, many of these women, they were forced to make the trip all the way to the border, cross the border, and smuggle a few, just a few CBD bottles or RSO bottles that they have more THC, and it's incredible, and that was all because to heal their kids, and the price, because
Right.
some of of these women, they were spending in that more than, let's say, more than 10,000 pesos. That for this family, 10,000 pesos a month is quite a big amount.
No, that was just, it's such a ridiculous sort of situation that they find themselves in, which is that they're smuggling drugs back into Mexico, which if you just sit there, and the absurdity of it is incredible. Then you mentioned RSO oil, which it's supposed to have the properties where they say it can help with cancer. It's a much stronger version of a full spectrum THC product. But you focus more on just the basic of the basic tinctures and stuff that they made. Did you make a conscious choice to sort of focus on that instead of bringing all these other sort of stronger other elements into it, as a subject?
Yeah, sure. I think it wasn't even my decision, because when I met all the group of women, they have really clear convictions. So they don't sell, they don't produce to make money out of it, to make a profit. So what they are asking to the law is to let them grew their own plants, so they can make their own oils, and that's the way they do it, because and that's the only way they can actually treat their children, because we cannot forget that most of these children, they have really harsh conditions and how do you say diseases,
yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about epilepsy. We're talking about, it's not just like a mild condition. It's really harsh. It's for them. So the only way to actually make a medicine that it has the enough potency to help their children is homemade. So most of this group of women, they don't buy any oils, because that's another problem. The people that sell oil in the black market in Mexico, they actually don't grow the plant. They go to a dealer and they buy the weed, and you don't even know where that weed came from. So it might have, they have found traces even of gasoline in the weed they sell in the street. So imagine, you buy from a dealer, you make the medicine home, and that you give that to your children. Imagine that. So that's why this group of women, they grow their plants in their homes, they make their own medicine, and that's it. And for a very low price, they have managed to help their children and give them a better life quality.
Yeah, there's a lot of and again, this is kind of another juxtaposition of the place you live in and the laws that govern that, is that there's CBD toothpaste in the stores here, where if you don't want to smoke or take a tincture, you can brush your teeth with CBD. There's lotions, there's edibles, there's all these other things. And you have these group of Latino women that just want to make literally a homemade oil, and they're willing to risk, possibly losing their children, because they believe it's the most important thing. Now, it's been about like a year and a half since you filmed them.
Yes.
And has there been any tangible changes in their situation?
I think that's the saddest part of all this. Thanks. Early this year, we managed to screen the documentary in La Cámara de Senadores in Mexico.
Okay.
It was like a really big breakthrough, because we managed to for the senators to hear these women, face to face, so they could hear what is the real problem with the regulation they are making on paper, so they understand that they are leaving them out of the regulation. This regulation is focused on the business part, and these women are being left out. So unfortunately, this regulation was supposed to pass since 2017. We are like 2 seconds away from 2021, and I don't see it happening. And these women, the kids are still sick. They still have to struggle with the same problems as back in 2017. So, the documentary made visible the problem, and we have it's been really popular. We've been in Mexico in radio, magazines, but the biggest problem is that the people that are making the regulation, they don't even have a broad knowledge of the plant. They are not even experts, so they're making the regulation just as it goes. They go like, okay, let's put this and this and this and this, and let's put it out there, and that's not the way it's supposed to be.
So you're trying to basically speak truth to power by showing it to people that are actually make the rules. I think that in the United States, for example, the support for legalization for medicinal purpose didn't come necessarily until the business people got into it. You know what I mean? Okay. Until the business people began to see that there was money in it. And, there's a thought process here that says, when the weed store starts to look like the Apple store, then it's time to, let a lot of people out of jail or, change the way that we think about something, right? Even though it hasn't had a tangible change, do you think that your documentary and other sort of things that are happening about it has made it so that maybe these people aren't at least being actively persecuted? Is that something that has happened?
I think, for example, I had a chance to talk to many people that saw the documentary in other festivals. And for example, one thing that we were really proud of is that people that, remember the kind of people that we were talking like minutes ago, that they see somebody smoking weed and they're like, this is a drug addict. And
yeah,
at least I met a bunch of people that after seeing the documentary, they were like, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, it works like that. It helps the children. So I think information is power. And in this case, we have two targets: make society conscious about this problem, and also to show the authorities what is really happening, because they're forgetting these women.
Excellent. We have a couple of comments that I want to catch up on. The Media Arts Center says, thank you, Rodrigo, for showing your movie to San Diego audiences. We appreciate that. Dimitri is watching, says back at it again, and he says, great knowledge being shared. Thank you for watching, Dimitri.
Thank you.
Now, I have some questions. As a documentary filmmaker, what do you think your biggest, who are the people that you look up to that have made important documentaries? Is there any particular ones that you follow, that you've watched over and over, that affected you?
Oof. I can, more than directors, I think, I'll answer you like in two parts, the question. I think as a filmmaker, I like so much documentary because I think it's a way that we can give back to society. Right. As filmmakers, it's not only entertainment. I think documentary is a really powerful tool to make things like this, like the thing we're talking about. And on the other hand, wow, I think I've seen many documentaries, but like there's so many. It's like when they ask you, tell me your favorite movie, you're like,
yeah, no, I mean, Yeah, there's. I mean, like I said, if I love making films, but I always say if I had just unlimited money and unlimited time, I would make a bunch of like long form documentaries about a bunch of like topics that are interesting to me, because I just feel that it is such there is such a fine line between telling the story while not affecting your subject. You're doing more like interviewing style, and your previous documentary was about something that had happened in the past. So so that's why I was kind of looking, so that's why I was asking. But do you recommend for young filmmakers? Because Ethan had a question about your tips for young filmmakers. If you had to choose between narrative and documentary film, do you think one of them is easier than the other? And would you recommend young filmmakers begin with documentaries?
I can tell, talking in my experience, I think documentary is a really, it takes less money than making a feature film, and you can still make a beautiful film. So yeah, I would recommend, if you like documentaries, I think it's a great way to step into filmmaking.
And also with the current situation that we're living through, you would think you really all you need is a camera, a good sound person, and an interviewer, as opposed to maybe needing a lot more things to make a traditional film right now. Yeah. And probably you can even keep your distance from the subject while you're interviewing them. So in a sense, it's probably a little bit easier to start making small documentaries with people around you that you find interesting, as opposed to getting a group of people together to film an action movie, right?
Yeah. No, and I think, just for example, I think the success in documentary filmmaking is you need to have the ability to find the story within the story, because crazy things happen every day. And if we talk about Mexico, I mean, the crazy things that happen in my country is crazy. I mean, we could make like 1,000 documentaries a month, and we couldn't even cover all the problems that we have. But in my perspective, the thing that makes a good documentary is, okay, for let's take LAS SANADORAS, for example, is the layer was the cannabis, and all this is illegal and everything. But the true challenge was to find the story within the story, and the story within the story is Cecile. And Cecile is an amazing character, and thanks to her, is how the audience really gets, it goes deep into the story and understands what's happening inside. Because if not, I think you end up like with you start doing more like journalism more than documentary filmmaking. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I think
absolutely.
That's the main difference about both.
She was definitely.
Don't go ahead.
No, she was definitely the heart of the story around her. But like literally, like how many hours of footage did you have on your timeline when you first started?
The first cut was, I think, 6 hours.
Now, are you hands-on? Like as the director, do you have to be there to trim all that, or do you trust an editor to sort of get rid of the bulk and give you some different options, in finding the story?
No, I wrote it's not a scripted script, but I made a script of the documentary. So I love to be really precise in film. I don't like to film like, I think it's a problem if you finish a documentary and you tell me, oh, I have 200 hours of material, then I don't think you were really sure about what you were doing, because yeah, I think it backfires. I mean, when you get into a documentary, even though it's a documentary and you will get surprises, but you need to be very focused and you need to have very clear what the story is, and you need to stay focused and move in the story, because if not, you end up like that. You end up with 400 hours of material, and then you are like, but what story is going to be about?
One of the parts that I enjoyed the most was La Doctora Colombiana, like in the middle of the documentary, and she just came on and she was like, fact. Like it was almost like her little 5-minute clip could have been its own little story. She just was like, yes, lo otro, bada boom, bada boom, and I watched that, and I had my mom watch it too, and she was like, wow, yeah, she was really dropping a lot of knowledge there. So you had a lot of people that were putting a lot of information in your face. If you could pick like a couple of things that you want people to really take away from the film, what would those be?
One thing for sure is the medicinal part. I think the interview with Paola, the doctor, I think, like you said, is one of the best 5 minutes, 7 minutes of the documentary, because in a so short amount of time, you understand where we're standing and how we got there. Also, I think the lawyers, they talk a little bit more, but they did a really, really good job, to be really concise, so you understand the history of cannabis in Mexico, all the way from Peña Nieto to the current administration. So they really, and also because it's law, and sometimes it can be tricky even in the language and everything. I think that part was really clear to understand the consequences. Like, for example, the one we were mentioning, that the documentary is actually an illegal piece of cinema in my country. Crazy.
Yeah, well, no, and it just the entire thing struck me. It hit me very strong because obviously, I live in California. I consider myself a cannabis activist. People have been saying legalize it and treatment and stuff like this here for many, many years. So it almost makes you just sort of take a step back and realize how privileged we are here. Because in other places, in South America and in Mexico, Chile, Colombia, it can literally be a life or death situation where you have to make a decision. You have a child that's got epilepsy, you have a child with autism, you have a child, an adult that's got that, that won't eat. And there's this very simple medicine that we take for granted, but in other places, I think the culture and the politics haven't caught up to how people feel, right?
No, I agree. And one thing we cannot forget that, you as Colombian, you know what I'm talking about. El narcotráfico, that's a big if. I mean, in the United States and in Canada, you need to face like the battle was in the paper, I know there's drug in the street and everything, but most of it was, people fighting over, little parts of the law, how it's going to get implemented and everything. In Mexico, Colombia, it's another story. You don't only fight with the thing that the law actually hunts down these women. Also, these women are being hunted down by El Narco, because I can tell you there were many stories about these women that they tell you, of course, in an anonymous way, when the narcos, they come to their doors and they're like, hello, they told me that you are growing weed. And the thing was this, these guys told me, if I catch you selling, you die. That clear. And many women I met, they told me more or less the same story, and it was like that. If I catch you selling, you pay the price. So it's okay. It's for your kid, fine. But if I catch you in the street or selling oil or the flower to another woman or person, you're gonna have problem with those. So imagine that. It's not only the law; they also have to face El Narco, and these women, they don't have options, because if they don't have the money to, for example, like 40,000 pesos every month to treat their kid with traditional medicine. So what they do, they need to find an alternative. And cannabis is that alternative, and it works.
one of the byproducts of sort of the legalization in a large part of the U.S. is, people were saying that when the legalization initiative was put on the ballot, a lot of the money for the anti-legalization was probably coming from drug money, because it made more sense and made more money to maintain it as illegal in as many states as possible. So you would think that as more states become legal and the demand lessens, do you think that's going to correlate with maybe a loosening up of laws and also a loosening up of the narcos in terms of not worrying as they shift their focus to other drugs?
Oof, I've been asked that question before, and to be honest, I think I do not have a solid.
I think they want to keep control no matter what, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know how things they have to be done, but these guys are not going anywhere. That's for sure. So, to have the illusion that Mexico is going to become like Canada or like Colorado, we are way, way, way back from that point. I think for us, in our reality, we need to find like a middle point where personal use comes to a second, stage, and we actually focus on the medicinal part. Because in Mexico, we have a lot of medicinal plants and, like ancient herbolaria and all these things. I think we can take that path, but the narco is not going anywhere. I mean, it's a global organization. Who's going to root them out? Nobody. They are already part of the system of governments. I mean, in the US, in Mexico, in Colombia, Brazil, Russia, they are everywhere.
No. It's a sad reality that they have control, or they have tentacles everywhere. And I guess it's to the point where the governments are treating them almost like an equal entity, like negotiating with them, or basically just basically saying, okay, we're hands off. You guys do your thing. We just want to sort of keep the violence down. Basically saying, if you choose that life and you guys choose to kill each other, that's on you, right? I mean, do you feel like the government sort of has that hands-off policy right now? Is that kind of what's happening in Mexico?
They don't say it, but I think so. But it doesn't show, because violence is out of hand right now in Mexico. It's crazy. I mean, it really is out of hand. So that doesn't give you like I don't think they are in really good terms, if we put it that way.
Right.
Oh, it's crazy.
What would be the obviously in the United States right now, the political climate is that there's a lot of attacks and a lot of sort of, all the things that are happening in the detention centers, and there's a lot of sort of attacks on the Latino culture. Does that trickle down? Do you guys feel that sort of that's happening to the Latinos in the USA? Is that something that sort of comes across to you guys on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, for sure. I mean, in Mexico, I always say no somos racistas, somos clasistas.
Sí.
And that's a big problem. Let me give you an example. If they catch like a well-dressed guy in the street, I don't know, smoking weed or whatever, the police might pass it, But if a construction worker is going out of work and he happens to smoke some weed, bye. They're going to put him inside the patrol. They're going to fresh him up, try to get his money, or he's going to end up in jail, paying 5 years because he smoked one cigar. That happens every day. That's so sad. It happens. It's absurd. The same happens with these women. There are cases where women were transporting their oils, and in proportion is more than 5 grams. They have like, let's say, 5 jars of oils. and they get caught, and they face big trouble. Even though it's for my kid, and even though we have a regulation going, they don't care. If they want to get you, like police is harsh, and they get you. They won't touch their hearts. That's for sure.
What was the other than the logistics of moving around? What if any issues did you have during the filming that you had to that were unexpected?
They were two really big. I traveled to Saltillo in Mexico, that is in the north of the country, and literally 20 minutes before going to meet this person that agreed to appear in camera, radio silence. That's it. We were going to meet her in a place, blah, blah, blah. We arrive, 1 hour, 2 hours. I never got any information from her again. And the same happened. The same happened with another person that we were just about to interview, and this guy actually, this person at least this person gave me a reason. They sent me a text, and he was like, "I am sorry, but I am really scared. I am scared that I'm going to appear in camera. My name is going to appear in camera, and I'm scared. I'm scared that El Narco might come. I'm scared that the police might come. They might take my plans." So that gave me, like the sensibility to see that it was even a bigger problem than I thought it was, because there's actually a persecution of these people.
Wow, I mean, the fact that you put yourself out there for your art like that, though, is incredible, and that these people are putting themselves on the line for something that they believe in. Like I said, they risk having their kids taken away from them, being put in jail for, again, a plant that grows, a weed that grows naturally from the earth that's been around before we existed.
It's only been illegal the last 80 years. That's up there.
It's been legal for 50,000 years, illegal for 80.
Come on.
Right. And, our ancestors were, can you imagine the first people that realized how good it was? I mean, hey, they're like, hey, come back to the tribes.
I would love to show, let's go talk to the Mayans or the Aztecs. Let's see what they have to say about things. I wanted to share with you another experience, that the first time I met Cecilia, the first thing I offered her was that we could do all the interviews and everything in an anonymous way. We are going to put squares in everybody's faces, change names, change even the cities where we traveled. And she gave me one of the most amazing answers I heard. And it was like, if I don't show my face, I am no different from the drug dealers. And she told me, so I want to show my face. I want people to see me, to see that I'm a working mother, I have family, and I'm doing this for my children. I am no drug dealer, so I don't deserve to be treated that way. After that, wow. Luis, I was like, oof.
Wow.
Cecilia is a warrior. She's a monster.
Wow.
I mean,
one of the other things that I noticed is that towards the end of the documentary, you show her basically just doing work and answering a lot of very basic questions that, she says they get the same questions every day. Like, do you sell CBD, stuff like that. So in essence, they are groundbreakers in that they are giving information to people that for maybe 20, 30, 40 years of their life. You even had a woman there that was basically sharing her story and saying that she always grew up and her thought process was always to trust doctors, to trust the law. If it's illegal, it's illegal.
Correct.
And so she's basically, showing these women that they're allowed to take their children's health in their own hands, right? And their family's health in their own hands. And the reason that that's also, important to me is because, like I said, I take it for granted, but I give my father CBD every day. I give my dogs CBD because they're older. I use cannabis myself. So for me to see that other people are fighting for something that I take for granted, I think and this is the thing I love about documentary film, is that you can go into it thinking you know a lot about a subject and then realize that there's a whole other world that you don't know about, right?
No, imagine, like you're saying, imagine that doing the things you do, that you should be scared of the police, for example. Imagine that you're giving your father CBD, but you're also afraid that if they catch you in the street, you might see jail time. It's stupid. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it was one of the great things about documentary, I think, from our part, as documentary filmmakers, is that we get the chance to go so deep into so many different realities that it changes your life. I mean, after all the filmmaking and getting to know these people, these ladies are my friends. I still talk to them like once a month, and catch with them what they're doing and to see if I can help them. And they become part of your life. And you get, once you see their reality, you cannot look the other way. I mean, it's not fair. That was my final argument after, it's fun to be in the film festivals and everything, but when you look back, you're like, it's not fair. Come on. They're still struggling. There's no regulation.
Wow. What if anything can people do? I mean, I forget their name. It's Mama Cultiva. Is there a way people can, other than watching the documentary and learning about them, do they have a nonprofit? Do they have a way that people can get involved?
Mama Cultiva, imagine this, it's sick children is such a big thing in Latin America that Mama Cultiva has spread. You have Mama Cultiva, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Ecuador, Colombia, Mexico. They're all over the place, these women. And they're fighting. In every country, they have a different fight. For example, the people that appear in the documentary that are from Santiago de Chile, when we made the documentary, everything was looking fine. And they were taking baby steps through a nice regulation. The government even allowed them to have big crops of cannabis. And today, they're being persecuted. There are police entering in their houses. They're taking their plants and they are throwing people in jail. And that happened just in 1 year. From 1 year I was in Chile to the next year, people are being thrown in jail because they have one small plant in their apartment. It's crazy.
Is that because I think one of the researchers was saying that they had to keep it a medical research project to make it legal, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like they could just do it because they knew it would help. It had to be a part of an ongoing study for them to be able to grow, right?
That's correct. But Maria, one of the ladies that appeared from Chile, I mean, her daughter was taken away like 4 weeks ago. It was all over Twitter and Facebook. Imagine this: she was in an interview, and on a live interview like this one, they told her they just took your daughter. It was heartbreaking. I can even share you the clip. I will find it in YouTube. Just to you get the dimension of how crazy this is. And in every country is different, and unfortunately Latin America is facing. I think Colombia has it the better way today.
Yeah, no, and yeah, Colombia is doing it a lot of different places, but you look at the research, like they said, countries like Portugal and other places where they've done full decriminalization, and it's really just night and day how society improves. So I think it's a combination of an entrenched cultural bias against cannabis, that's propaganda mostly. It's like you said, the force that the cartel has always had and will continue to have, and politicians not wanting to budge because either one, they're under control by somebody else, or there's not enough incentive for them to do so. So I just feel that like documentaries like yours and organizations like Mama Cultiva are out there fighting an incredible fight. So I really appreciate the fact that you made this movie that can shed light on it. So I really appreciate your work in it.
Thank you, Luis. And just to kind of round it up, we need to understand that the weed prohibition in all America is not a health issue. It's a political and economic problem. And that is so I mean, yeah, now you understand why these women are so angry. It doesn't have anything to do with health. They have politics and economics. That's all they care about. So imagine that's the people that are making the regulation.
And it's also not a minor thing that these are women. Obviously, the patriarchy is strong in South American culture.
I agree.
So the fact that it's nuestras madres, nuestras hermanas, nuestras amigas que están that they're on the front lines.
The future is female. I agree.
What message do you have for the people that are still fighting that fight? If you want, like in Spanish, what would you say to them?
Pues mira, yo les diría a quien tenga la oportunidad de ver el documental es la mejor manera de combatir esta situación es con información. Para poder hacernos partícipes, primero hay que informarnos. Y cuando estemos informados, los gobiernos y la gente que está haciendo todas estas leyes nos podrá tomar en menor sorpresa. Entonces, creo que lo primero es informarse. Número 2, involucrarse. No hay que tenerle miedo, hay que apoyar a estos colectivos, hay que apoyar a estas mujeres y de todo, colectivos de todo tipo. Gente que desde su trinchera está tratando de lograr una regulación. Hay que involucrarse, hay que apoyar, porque de verdad los gobiernos están haciendo las cosas tan mal en varios puntos, por llamarlo de alguna manera, que creo que la única manera de darle la vuelta es si la sociedad se involucra. Si les dejamos todo a ellos, estamos perdidos.
Bien dicho. Lo digo. So, Mama Cultiva, when is it's showing again in the festival, right?
Yeah, I think we have 2 more screenings, I think. One in Sunday, you have it there. I think it's Sunday. And I think Tuesday, maybe.
Okay, so you still have 2 more chances to watch this important documentary. Rodrigo, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today after the screening. Like I said, the movie affected me personally, and
thank you so much, Luis.
And I appreciate you taking the time. What is next for you? I know you spent a long time working on it, and it's still something that you're passionate about. But how do you balance continuing to support the film and its festival run and leaving it for people, since it's important, in figuring out what you want to do next as a filmmaker?
Well, as we are like the El Hombre Orquesta, you need to manage and keep it going. But one thing that after San Diego Latino Film Festival, we are going to hit the Seattle Latino Film Festival. So we will show the documentary over there. So we are really happy about it. And we're still waiting for a couple of film festivals from here until December. I hope we can show it in other parts of the world. And as for me as a filmmaker, like at the beginning, I told you, like, stories actually find you.
Right.
A new story found me during the quarantine, and it's already a project. And hopefully we are going to start filming on January of next year. And now we're jumping into feminicidio.
Wow.
A really huge problem, a huge cancer that it's killing our women in Mexico, and it got my attention. I met this. It's incredible. It's a mother of a victim, and I took it from there. We've been working on it for a couple of months right now, and that's going to be our next project, our next documentary feature.
So you went from kidnapping to drugs to murder.
Yeah. I like deep stuff.
No cream puff documentaries here.
No. We're not talking about cupcakes here.
No cake documentaries. Okay.
No.
All right. Rodrigo Occelli, director, Las Sanadoras. You can catch it 2 more times at San Diego Latino Film Festival, SDLatinofilm.com. Where can they follow you, Rodrigo? Do you have a production company, or
Yes.
where can they?
Well, you can. I can write it right here, and you post it.
Yeah, it's fine. Or I can. I don't know if we have it already, but if you tell me, I can create a banner for it.
Yeah, this is my film production company. It's called Beta Films. You can follow us on IG and in Facebook, and you can follow the IG account of the documentary in Instagram. That is Las Sanadoras Documental. I wrote Sanadores. Sorry, soy disléxico. It's the same. I put change the E for an A.
Oh, Las Sanadoras. Okay. I'm just gonna put the Beta Films up there.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right. So watch Las Sanadoras as part of the San Diego Latino Film Festival. Thank you, Rodrigo, for being a part of this. I'll talk to you a little bit after this stream is over because I want to get your information and talk to you later on. Absolutely. But thank you, everybody who watched and commented. SDLatinofilm.com, Luis Martinez. I'll be here doing the QAs for the rest of the festival. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and watch more Latino films, especially these next 2 weeks.
Let's go
back
to
guys.
the movies. Thank you.
Take it easy.